unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I had hard limits set by my parents, which I think was a good thing, but it also, kept me from
playing too much.
Maybe becoming as epic a gamer as I would have liked to have been.
In the future, you can make a lot of money being an epic gamer. So who knows? Maybe you'll start a Twitch or something like that.
Oh, never.
Never. Hello and welcome to the Retro Adam podcast. This is episode 1. I am your host, Retro Adam. And today my guest is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a very long time, all the way back in elementary school. He's a big philosopher, an entrepreneur. Please welcome Sanford.
I'm not any of those things. You didn't even tell me to dress up.
A very wise man. He's an avid retro gamer. So thank you for joining me on the show today.
I play games.
Yeah.
I play games.
He's dabbled. So I have a list of questions here, about 10 questions. I'm just going to ask Sandy how he feels about if he has any stories about these games. I'd like to hear about them, and I think the audience would enjoy hearing some of these stories that he'll bring up.
Perhaps.
So yeah, let's start with question number 1 here. Let's just dive right in. What's your favorite retro gaming console or system, and why?
Definitely the Nintendo Entertainment System. I wanted one for what felt like forever when I was younger. I mean, it came out the same year I was born. My mom wouldn't get it for me. She basically made me make my own bank account, invest money, taught me how interest rates worked over like a 6-month period before she allowed me to purchase this console. So like when it finally came to be, it finally arrived in my hands, it felt so amazing.
So you saved this money, your mom helped you save this money in the bank account, and then you finally got it in your hands. What did that feel like?
It felt awesome. I had actually accomplished something. I don't know, what was I, 7, 6, something like that when I finally got it. And yeah, I'm just couldn't wait to set it up.
Why did you want a Nintendo so bad? What was kind of compelling you to get it?
I think it was at that time, gaming kind of felt like you were able to explore a different world a little bit. You were starting to interact with little figures on a screen rather than just the real world and what was happening there. Mm-hmm. I feel like it kind of broadened your horizons of what ifs. You got 4 little pixels on the screen and you're this is a person and he's going on an adventure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I just really wanted to dive into that and be a part of these little micro stories.
Had you played any games prior to the Nintendo, or was the Nintendo the first one?
I mean, at other friends' houses, I got introduced to it. I never really played say Atari or Commodore. Mm-hmm. Obviously, arcades existed back in the day, and
mm-hmm.
I had a blast at things like Chuck E. Cheese and
okay. So maybe you saw those, and then you were like, "Oh, I got to get a Nintendo."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's nice. And those commercials of the time, man. The commercials of the time.
Oh, yeah, the commercials back then were crazy.
They just hyped it so hard, at least for me.
Oh, they did big time, especially the Nintendo commercials. So you get this console, and then you play it. It was amazing. What was the first game that you had for the? Was it?
It was Mario Duck Hunt.
Yeah,
and Tetris.
Oh yeah, Tetris as well.
Yeah, we bought Tetris at the same time because had to
So you played it right near the beginning when Tetris was that first came out, and you had it. And when it kind of just took, because it was for Game Boy as well, and then it also came out on Nintendo.
I mean, I was born in '85, so Nintendo came here in '85.
Mm-hmm.
So Mario Duck Hunt, a bunch of other games were all out before I ever actually was able to get it for myself.
Yeah.
So I feel that huge drive towards Tetris and different competitions was already happening by the time I was able to go through the process
mm-hmm.
of saving some money for doing my chores and getting it for myself.
I
So
think you had like a paper route or something too, didn't you? Did you use it?
I got the paper route later.
Oh, that
so
was
like
later.
I used that for my Sega basically.
Oh, that was for Sega.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Which retro game do you think has aged the best in terms of gameplay and graphics?
I mean, we were just talking about Tetris, and
Mhm.
like literally, I feel like there's not really much you can change about the gameplay. It's rewarding, and you have like a score going up every time you clear a
Gets
line
faster,
or
faster.
whatever. Yeah, it has a progression, like a clear progression through the game. Like I feel like it holds today. Like
Mhm.
you pick up a new console and you can play a Tetris or a version of Tetris. I know there's ones where like the pieces split
Mhm.
if you connect them properly and whatnot. So there's been like minor adjustments to the core gameplay, but it's the same game
Yeah.
and it feels great, and you feel like you're accomplishing something as you're solving these little minor puzzles as fast as possible.
Mhm.
I think Bubble Bobble for both of us is like another game that we really like for that.
That's another big one of my favorites as well. With Tetris, it's funny. It's almost like they cracked the code on addictive gameplay that like anybody could play.
Yeah.
And it came out on the Game Boy, it came out on NES, and every few years they just keep coming out with like an updated version.
Yeah.
And then Tetris for me, like the first Tetris I played was on the Nintendo DS. It was like the Nintendo themed one.
Did you play that before the graphing calculator?
Was there one
in
on
high
that one
school?
too?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
We played like in Math 10 with a
That
couple
graphing-
other buddies. The graphing calculator had a little
That
Tetris.
thing was
You
great.
could link it up with a cord and play with one other person. It was, yeah.
Curious if the audience also knows what we're talking about with that graphing calculator. But I mean, I feel like everyone in high school had that calculator, and you could play I think you could play Doom and Mario and Snake.
Yeah, there were like the first 2 levels of Mario. Like if you had to, link up with someone that had the like code and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So then with Tetris, they kind of added a few extra like quality of life features where like, did you play the Tetris where you press up and then it like
Instantly drops? Yeah.
I really enjoy that part of it too. It just
You
makes
can
it so
get
much
past
quicker.
the like slower levels a lot faster with
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they also have the ghost piece where you can see where the piece is going to drop. Have you seen those ones yet?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that feature as much.
Some people don't like it,
yeah.
but I actually really like because then I know where the piece is going to land.
I feel like that's like the beginning of we're going to draw the golden line in new RPGs to show you how to complete a quest without you actually exploring the world.
Oh, yeah. You mean like the hand holding where they can just show you exactly where to go?
Yeah. You're like, oh, you got 2 minutes to figure it out on your own. Otherwise, we're going to start blinking this light like, hey,
Here's a hint.
this way.
Here's the little compass that points you in the right direction. And then can you recommend some lesser known retro games that you think are hidden gems?
I mean, I had like a DOS computer pretty early, and I really liked this game, like Raptor, Call to Shadows.
Yeah, I've played that one.
Yeah, you're like a jet basically. You're like going through a bunch of different levels, top view, the standard arcade style, going back and forth, collecting power-ups. But it had a currency system where you collect currency throughout the level and then buy shields, buy different upgrades for weapons and stuff. And I really liked that. And I felt like that was like really early on, like just the being able to purchase power-ups.
Yeah, I think that game came out in '93 or something like that. I played the demo, I believe. And I just remember really liking it as well. Did you have the full version?
I had access to the full version.
You did have access
eventually.
To the full version. I never ended up beating it or anything. Did you remember beating it?
I never beat it. No.
Okay. Did it get too hard or something?
I just found like as you got, I beat many stages, but when you got to a point, like it felt like you'd have to play a level without getting hit in order to save money so that you wouldn't like spend money on your shields so that you could get the bigger power-ups. And I only had so much time to play, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I had hard limits set by my parents, which I think was a good thing, but it also, kept me from
playing too much.
Maybe becoming as epic a gamer as I would have liked to have been.
In the future, you can make a lot of money being an epic gamer. So who knows? Maybe you'll start a Twitch or something like that.
Oh, never.
Never. Do you prefer playing retro games on original hardware or through emulation or on modern devices?
Okay, so I like I would definitely prefer to play them on the original hardware, but
Mhm.
like the realities of life is like space is expensive. I can't have a wall of cartridges
Like
and
shelf after shelf
Yeah.
and cartridges.
So like, I mean, the realities of it is like emulation or, you know, having one system that you can download the games on. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah. Like just playing it on your PC or something like that.
Yeah.
With a USB controller or something.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Like it's just for pure spatial reasons. Like I don't have an extra room. I can make like a, you know, perfect gaming room with like
Mhm.
neat little Mario Brothers on the walls and shelves full of the cartridges, alphabetized, of course.
Yeah.
But
I would love to have like, I guess they're called like gaming rooms or something.
Yeah.
Like that. I'd love to have something like that. But like you said, it's a lot of space, a lot of money, time to make those. I mean, maybe one day.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. I mean, you can also play old games on modern consoles as well. So there's that option too.
Yeah, I don't. I've never really been a collector either. Like for me, like it's always been about playing the game. Like I played Magic: The Gathering as well, and
Mhm.
for me, I enjoy the game, so I use my cards. Especially when I was younger, I was rough on my cards, like
Mhm.
turning them on like the, you know, concrete and whatnot. They get damaged and whatever. So like I never thought of it as a collectible. It was just I enjoy
Yeah,
this game. I want to play the game. So
Yeah, you don't. Really
however
think
I
about
can
it
get
that way,
access to the game
Yeah. Mhm.
isn't as important to me as like how good the game is, how enthralling it is, how, you know,
You still have all those old Magic cards? Like you still kept them all?
I have a lot of them. Yeah.
Nice. Even the ones like that you originally had like way back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They're probably
yeah.
worth like some decent money then.
As I said, I turned them on the
Well,
front steps of my parents'
too much.
house, concrete. You look at the back, they're just like white scratches and
No
like
plastic sleeves. At
No,
the time. Yeah.
never did
Yeah.
that at the time, and it's unfortunate because that era they would have been worth.
Did you keep any like
Significant.
Pokemon cards? Because those are worth a lot now.
I never really enjoyed
get it?
Pokemon cards.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So you mainly Magic.
I did a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh.
And Yu-Gi-Oh. And Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
I lost my Yu-Gi-Oh cards actually. I wish I still had them. But
For shame.
yeah, I had a box and just a bunch of them, and I don't know what I did with the box. And I lost it.
Yeah. I think we kind of like sidetracked from that.
Yeah.
That is gaming still, though, right? It's not the same.
I mean, there's Yu-Gi-Oh games and there's Magic
Yeah.
games. Like we played that online Magic.
Oh, the arena, yeah.
Arena, which is also a lot of fun. What's your opinion on the resurgence of interest in retro gaming with events like retro gaming conventions and remastered editions of classic games?
I mean, it seems like collecting has become like a huge thing nowadays.
I
Like
agree, yeah.
you like can see the value of older things constantly on the rise. And you know, there's a whole bunch of like conventions for different things, and I think it's just kind of like a natural evolution of where things go. Like I think a lot of people look back at the times they were playing these games that are considered retro now, and like they had more free time because maybe they were in school, or at least for my generation. I'm not sure about a generation older than me, but like I had this free time. I had no like real obligations. So sitting down and playing these games, like it just felt free, like guilt-free pleasure. And I think we all have that, like, you know,
Come home from
nostalgia
school,
and
sit down,
like
yeah.
kind of wish that things still just felt the same.
Yeah.
And also they're like shorter games, right? Like
You could beat them in a lot of the games. You could beat in an hour. Yeah. And now
Yeah.
they're like, now these new games are like 80 hours. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I think there's something for that. Like, oh, I can actually complete a full thing in a sitting rather than I need to come back to this for like 2 months, remember everything that happened within that time frame so that like I know what I'm missing, what I got to do next.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
definitely. And then briefly before we started the show here, you mentioned one of your favorite remastered games as well, the Day of the Tentacle.
Oh yeah, Day of the Tentacles.
Yeah, I wanted to
Amazing.
touch on that. Yeah, you had a few things you wanted to say on that.
I mean, like, I personally like really like stories and stuff, and I thought the Day of the Tentacle had a really interesting story. It was like very cheeky, had like interesting kind of like, you know, kind of connections to, you know, American history at least, to solve some of
that
the
one
puzzles
is
and
like
stuff.
time travel, right?
Yeah.
You go to different Pat's
Yeah,
future as well.
yeah,
I can't remember a future.
Yeah, there was a future, a
yeah.
past, and a present, and you would like flush certain objects you found in certain eras down the toilet to go either to the future or to the past.
Very clever puzzles, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just cheeky, and it was, I don't know, so much fun to like envision that, like, especially at that age, like it in a way showed consequences too. Like you're like, oh, if things happen slightly differently, like how does that affect way up ahead?
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So Day of the Tentacle, it's a sequel to Maniac Mansion. LucasArts made Maniac Mansion, and Maniac Mansion was ported to like a whole bunch of different consoles. But then Day of the Tentacle is the sequel. It's a point and click adventure puzzle game.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. They also did like Sam & Max, Full Throttle, The Dig, Monkey Island, which is also one of my favorites.
Monkey Island's pretty awesome. Yeah.
As well. Did you play any of the new Monkey Islands, or maybe
I have all of them. I've gone through 90% of the first one, I'd say, and slowly working through.
I'd say first Monkey Island, and the second one's also really good. But yeah, I must have beaten the first Monkey Island like 10 or 11 times. It's really fun.
Yeah, it has that same like kind of cheeky sarcasm way of solving like problems in the game, and so much fun.
They actually came out with a new Monkey Island quite recently. Did you play that one?
No, I haven't.
You should check that one. I think it's on the Switch and PS5, but it's also really good. It's kind of got this cool art style to it, like kind of almost like Picasso kind of art style.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just very like unique. But yeah, I'd recommend checking that one out too. Have you ever collected retro gaming memorabilia or merchandise? If so, what's your most prized possession?
So I think we talked about collecting a little bit already. Like I've never been much for a collector, but like I do have a few Super Nintendo games like in their original boxes with their instruction booklets. I would say out of those, my prized is Link to the Past. Like I have the instruction, have the box, have the original walkthrough. Nice. It kind of, I'm not a collector, but it feels nice to have like
that one.
Yeah.
Do you have it like just placed on your shelf and you can like see it when you go to in your room?
No.
Is it kind of like in storage?
I have it in storage now, but just, I don't know, having those things, it feels good. But otherwise, I collect like t-shirts for like different games that like I really like and
with a bunch
stuff.
Of different like, I think you have hats too, right? With different.
I don't have any hats actually. It's just the only one I own.
I thought you had like a Nintendo controller hat or something. Or maybe I was just thinking of the shirts because you have.
I have quite a few Nintendo controller shirts.
Yeah, that's probably it then. I'd say my prized possession is probably like Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
In the box still. That's probably one of my most coveted. Like, oh my god, this is. And it's got like the posters inside as well. It's one of my favorite games. And the artist for that game was actually the Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Who just passed
away. Which
so
is
sad.
I was actually very sad when I heard that news. Because he's done like Dragon Quest as well for the art for those games. Dragon Ball Z and like quite a few different things. So
he had a huge impact on a lot of things.
I was pretty sad to hear that news, yeah. And then are there any retro games that you feel have been overlooked or underrated by mainstream audiences?
I mean, there was that Raptor game we talked about.
Yeah.
Just coming here just before this, I had a thought and it was fading from my brain.
I guess not even necessarily like just for Nintendo. Like I guess any retro games like in the 90s that you can think of that you really liked, but not a lot of other people liked. Was it Wizardry? Was that one you're thinking of?
Actually, I do really.
I think Wizardry wasn't huge, was it? Wasn't like a big game.
Maybe in Japan it was a little bit bigger, but Wizardry 5 I spent hours on.
Was that the Super Nintendo one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one where you're going through a labyrinth basically, and though there was a spell you could cast in the game to bring up a map, there was no like mini map or anything. Like
Did you have to like draw your own map?
Yeah, so you would literally like be drawing the map on grid paper.
You had grid paper and you would draw it.
Yeah, even to this day, I've memorized the whole first level of that game.
Oh my God.
And there's about 12 floors, I would say.
Yeah.
I've never beaten it because I keep
you never beat it? It just gets too hard?
Oh, no, I keep on investing like a lot of time in it, and then I get hit by a random teleportation trap. My party gets stuck in a room, and I have no recourse but to restart, essentially, which is a downside to that game. I wish there was...
Like getting trapped, and then you can't get your characters out.
Yeah. So, like, I really wish there was a way to get out of that. Maybe there is, and I've just...
There might be a way. Like,
I've never looked it up, but
have you thought about looking at a walkthrough and just kind of going through the game? Maybe you've missed something that keeps trapping you.
I've gone through like a couple little ones just to see if there's anything like, major secret that I missed on the first few levels that I've, easily played through. But I haven't like read all the way to the end because I like solving everything myself.
No, I can understand that. Yeah, sometimes you want to just do it on your own. Yeah.
But like I have searched for the teleportation thing a few times, and I haven't really found any answers to like after that happens. So
it sounds like other people
basically what happens is you kill a mob, they drop a chest, you do a search at the chest, and it tells you like, oh, the thief in my party thinks that this is a certain type of trap, but your thief could be wrong. So you do that, maybe you cast a spell at the chest to make sure that both of the things are aligned before you try and disarm the trap. But if you disarm the wrong type of trap and it's actually a different trap, then it goes off.
Oh, okay.
And one of those traps is a teleportation.
And then you're stuck.
Then you're stuck.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm getting so far in the game, I just want to get access to my sweet loot.
I feel like there must be a way to like, get out of that. I wonder if there's something you can do to prevent getting stuck like that. Like maybe there's something you can buy or spell or something like that.
Yeah, I'm still not sure.
Yeah.
After all this time,
but I like return to it.
Yeah, someone knows. You could comment for Adam.
Leave a comment.
That would be amazing because
how you get out of the teleportation traps. We'd love to know. How do you think retro gaming has influenced modern game design and culture? I guess when they mean that, so like retro gaming, how has it influenced, I guess, like newer games?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I think that's what the question is entailing.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot of games out there. Like, I think Mario Party is like a really big example of kind of where my brain went when you asked that. It's like a combination, a bunch of mini games, and I'm like, well, these mini games are like
they're like old.
They're just literally old retro games.
That's right.
That have just been revamped into some one overarching thing. And then like you can go into things like, I don't know, Skyrim or whatever, and they'll have like little mini games to solve certain problems and whatnot. And I feel like basically the bigger games are just pulling upon aspects of everything in retro gaming to develop them.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Like a lot of the newer games kind of just pulling from like old Atari games or something. Even mobile gaming does that a lot. They take old games and they kind of just put a new spin on it.
Right.
And they just took a formula that really worked and then just kind of monetized it, I guess, with microtransactions, which is kind of annoying, but you can see why they're doing
quarters, man, quarters.
Yeah, or even you go to an arcade and you beat the first or second level and you got to keep putting those quarters in Contra or something like that.
Yeah.
But what's your most memorable experience or achievement while playing a retro game?
Most memorable experience? So we talked right at the beginning of this about when I first got my Nintendo console system. So I got it. We dropped it off at home. I had to go out. I can't remember if it was like soccer practice or something. But when I got back, it was already set up. My stepdad was playing it. So after saving for 6 months and stuff for it, to have someone else have been the first person to play it was kind of like a little bit of a moment for me. So I would say that's like the most memorable experience for me.
No, I could understand that. And I think you mentioned also Contra or Super C.
Oh, yes.
Another big one for you.
I feel like that for me was one of my like bigger achievements. Like I probably played that for hours, just working my way through. And I was young when I first started playing it. It used to be a game that sorry, this is Super C for
Super C
Nintendo.
for NES. Yeah.
Yeah. Played this for hours. When I went on ski trips, like my cousin would have this on like his console that he would bring up. We'd play on this like little 8-inch TV up in a loft.
Oh, he brought his NES to the ski trip. Oh,
yeah, okay. So like we'd ski all day, then go back, and we'd play like 1942.
It's like the perfect day.
Yeah, Super C and a couple other like Yoshi's Cookie and like a couple other like
Cookie as well.
Yeah, nice. A bunch of like old classics like that. And Super C, like I don't know what drew me to it. I think it's the power ups, it's the like progression, it's the kind of memorizing like each part of the level, like and the patterns to like get through. And when I finally like beat that without Game Genie, did it with Game Genie once.
No codes, no extra lives code.
Yeah. The one code was like pretty awesome. Just every kill you get gives you a life.
Oh, that was like a Game Genie code. Yeah. Because there's like the extra life code as well you can do. But with Game Genie, you can like add extra. Yeah.
So the first time I beat the game was with Game Genie. We were playing 2-player. We had the cheat active where every single enemy you killed, you gained a life. And we ended up beating it. But as the last boss, my friend game over.
Oh, no, really?
He started stealing lives to come back.
Even had all the extra life, they still...
I was basically killing every enemy, so that was hilarious.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, when I finally like beat that like straight through, I don't remember exactly how long it took. Like I was like, yes, finally.
That was a big one for you.
I told you before, like I had pretty strict time restrictions on how long I could play. So another game I really wanted to like beat was Teenage Mutant Turtles 3.
The third one, Manhattan Project?
Yeah, the Manhattan one. And I think that game takes about 2 hours to beat, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
And I would always get to like, the level with Shredder or whatever. And then that would be it. It would be time to like shut down the game.
Oh no. It's like, turn it off.
Yeah. Like, so like beating a couple of these games, like after those time restrictions and stuff, like, felt so good.
Yeah. That's another really good game. That's a great co-op game. Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Those are great. I have to find those to add them to my collection because I have the first one.
Oh,
but that's not multiplayer.
You've memorized like gameplay walkthrough how to like beat that game in as fast as possible.
The first Ninja Turtles? Yeah, that's a game I owned.
Yeah, you've mastered that one.
That's a great game. So my most memorable experience that I just want to let you know, like I'm a big like Final Fantasy fan. So there's for a long time I couldn't beat the Final Fantasies because I was just too afraid to get to the end and fight the final boss for a majority of them. And the first Final Fantasy I beat, because my brother would always get to the end of the game, show me the ending and be like this is how you beat it, and I'd be like, wow, like I hope I can do that one day. So what I did is I ended up going back to the first Final Fantasy and I beat that one first, and then I gradually went from the next game, and ending up beating them all. But yeah, I remember that first Final Fantasy I beat on the Nintendo Entertainment System. That was a big deal for me. And that kind of just set off the chain reaction to beat all the other ones.
Actually, like kind of speaking to that, like, I mean, I'm the eldest in my family, but we had a mutual friend back in elementary school who also had an older brother who was friends with your older brother. And they showed me the ending of Metroid.
The first Metroid?
The first Metroid on NES, where like the suit's gone and you're fighting the brain or what. Sorry if that's a spoiler to anyone.
The suit's gone?
So yeah, like that was just an impressionable moment to me as well, like where it was like, I've never gotten through all of Metroid. And
to see the end.
See the end and be like, wow.
And it would scare me too, because like I'd see them beat it and then I'd be like, can I do that? Like, I don't know. So then I was afraid.
So much bigger than me.
Yeah, like you're so much better than I am. But eventually, it's just like, well, you just do it. You push through, and once you beat it, that satisfaction is like amazing. So I just have one more question for you here. The last question: if you could bring back one retro gaming franchise with a modern reboot, which one would it be and why?
So I think I kind of talked to you about it a little bit earlier, like in Contra. Like I feel like there's a lot there that they could play with potentially. I mean, there's lots of first-person shooters, Army, Call of Duty, and stuff like that. But like, I really like that style of game, and you can tell even the way they designed it, where they had levels going up, levels going side to side. They had top view levels where you were going through like indoor bases and whatnot.
Are you talking about the first Contra or the Super C still? Because yeah, you're right. Super C has that top.
Super C has like the first act is, side scroller platformer. Second act was the elevator going up a building basically.
Yeah.
So they were really trying to like make a 3D game in a 2D engine. Like they were trying to expand it to different fields of view. Can't remember which level. Sorry, second act actually had the top view, and then the elevator was right after that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Super C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were trying to make this game like 3 dimensions or have all these different field of views in that era with the limitations of the system at that time. Like, I feel like it would be super cool if they could like make a 3D version of that game or something. I don't know exactly how it would look like, but like my inner child wants that.
Yeah. And speaking of that, and I also mentioned to Sandy earlier, they did come out with a new Contra just recently. I believe it's called Operation Galuga. It just came out on Switch and the PS5, and I think it kind of is doing what you're explaining, where it's like 3D, but it's still side-scrolling, and they add those elements in there. So I was just recommending to Sandy to check it out when he gets home. It's got that old Contra feel to it.
Definitely going to take a look.
And if you do have the PS5 version smoother, Switch version, the frame rate's a bit lower, so it's going to be a little choppier.
Oh, okay.
So I'd recommend playing it on the PS5. But I played a little bit of it; it's really good. But yeah, speaking of Contra, like I love Contra. Like I've played a majority of them. My two favorite Contras, I think, are Super Contra on the Super Nintendo, which my brother and I played a lot of. We just every day was like Contra, and then Super C on the Nintendo Entertainment System is my other probably favorite one.
What's your favorite power up?
There's a bunch of like on the Super Nintendo one, I really love the fire because you shoot it out and then you can like spin it around. And
it's so fire.
Yeah, it's so fun. And you can get a fire in each hand and then do the spin. This, like propeller of fire going. It's just the coolest thing ever. And then in Super C, the spread gun with rapid fire is excellent. Like it's just such a good way to just dominate your playing field. So those two are my favorite. And I have played a bunch of the other ones. I played the PS2 one. My brother and I, but we both played that one as well. And I heard the DS one's really good. Played a little bit of that one. It's kind of that's got the old school one.
Okay, old school style.
What were your favorite because you played a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Super C the best. It's just all the memories from the ski trips and other times playing it. My power ups, fire. For Super C. I liked being able to charge it a little bit.
Fire in Super C is a little different from the Super Nintendo one. It's like it shoots like a ball of fire.
Yeah,
and explodes into 4
and
pieces.
you can charge it so fire breaks into 8 pieces. It does significantly more damage. Okay. So like I like that because just blow away the enemies like when you get to the bosses and stuff.
Yeah.
I actually I say my second was like the laser. Like it was really hard to use.
Yeah. It was strong though, right?
Yeah. But it was like so fun because basically you were only allowed one projectile with the laser. It would like shoot out and move really slowly across the screen. And if you tried to shoot again, that one disappears and another one comes. Yeah. So you can make this like little, like almost a sword if you just rapidly press the button fast enough and you just be like, I chopped this guy in half. I chopped that guy in half. And,
So fire and laser for you.
Yeah.
Did you like laser in the Super? Did you play the Super Nintendo one?
I did play the Super Nintendo.
Did you like that laser and that?
I don't recall how the laser worked. I did like the fire a lot still.
Yeah. The laser in that one's just like a
like
thin laser that shoots out. And then you wait a second or something and you can shoot it again.
Okay.
It's pretty strong as well.
So it was like the quick kill weapon.
Yeah. I think Crush was actually the strongest weapon in that game.
Okay.
Crush was quite strong. I remember it.
Okay. For that one, I think I did. You said you were doing the flipping things with 2 fires. I would always flip with a spread and a fire.
Yeah.
I feel like it just eliminate everything. Yeah.
Oh, Contra. What a great franchise. But yeah, I'd recommend playing that new one. Yeah, I think you'd really like it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I think that kind of wraps it up. Thank you for tuning in. Very thankful Sandy was able to come in and sit down and talk with me, reminisce about old times. So yeah, episode 1. Thanks for tuning in. You got anything?
I got one more suggestion. Yeah, just let your guests know quite how formal the situation's going to be before you get started.
Well, we got the fireplace, we got the coffee. You look fine.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
So
I try.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. I'm sure Sandy will return, so we'd love to have you back. So yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time. Peace.